Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, a co-production of EWTN Radio and SpiritualDirection.com, where we provide you with a spiritual haven of rest and explore the riches of the wisdom of the saints and the path to union with God.
This is Dan and Jordan Burke. Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, your radio haven of rest.
Your Hermitage of the Heart.
That was I don't know.
I got like 3 hours.
You just don't.
Night, so.
Are you convinced that that's what it is?
I was trying to remember.
That was good. No, you did fine.
Okay, good.
Your monastery of the mind, where we lift our hearts and minds to the heavens to draw on the wisdom of the saints and to help us navigate the tumult of this life. And I'm here with Jordan Burke because Stephanie is otherwise occupied, and Jordan has done a lot of research in the area of our conversation we're going to talk about today. In fact, Jordan is the spokesperson for a new book from Sophia Institute Press entitled
The Pope's Exorcist, 101 Questions About Father Gabriel Amorth.
There you go. So why don't you introduce our guest?
Our guest is Cary Solomon. He is the writer, producer, and director of Nefarious. He's wearing a lot of hats. He's also created God's Not Dead, Do You Believe, and Unplanned, among many others. And we are very excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Cary.
Thanks for having me.
Well, as I said this offline, we were talking, but I think I want to say it again because I had to process through it a little bit. I think this show is in my top 5 all-time movies. This movie, Nefarious, is in my all-time top 5. And the way I judge movies, I used to run the National Catholic Register and EWTN News, and we had a movie critic that worked for us. And an art review person. And the way that he looked at all of these kinds of things is totally different than the way I do. And there's nothing, it's just different. I'm not capable to be an art critic. But my question about a movie that I see, because I see so few, is does it tell the truth? Will it help people to heaven? And this movie, of all the Christian movies I've seen, with the exception of, and I'm not putting in competition, but I mean, just the list is very small. The Passion of the Christ, the Chosen series so far has been extraordinary. It's a few issues with respect to Catholic doctrine, but it minor, Yeah. This movie, truth and impact, those two criteria is in my top 5.
Yeah.
Of all time. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
No, I 100% agree. And I do, as a side hobby, I would like to watch a lot about behind the scenes of movie making. And I will say, even though you don't want to say you're an art critic, I'm not an art critic, but I noticed how visually beautiful certain aspects of this movie was, and how certain shots were done to kind of help push the story forward and show different transitions. It's all just, I'm going to gush over this movie the entire time, but I'm doing it in a very analytical way.
Yeah.
So it's not just hype. It's an incredible movie.
So Cary, thank you so much for you and your team for doing this great work. What if you wanted, in a nutshell, describe the movie for our listeners, those who haven't seen it, what's the movie about?
Well, it's a story about a serial killer by the name of Edward Wayne Brady, and it's his day of execution. Now, in the prison system in the United States, you will not be executed unless you're proven to be sane. So on the day of his execution, his psychiatrist actually kills himself. And so that brings all the questions into doubt on whether or not Edward Wayne Brady is either crazy or not crazy. So they have to the state has to bring in a new psychiatrist. The new psychiatrist is progressive. He's very, very smart. He's well-dressed. He's very good at what he does. Very liberal, obviously, total atheist. And basically he comes in very self-assured. And the warden tells him, look, the guy you're going to deal with is, you just don't understand. He's a mastermind, and so think Hannibal Lecter, that kind of thing. And of course, the psychiatrist has the attitude of like, this is what I do for a living. I don't have anything to worry. You don't have anything to worry. I'll be out of here in an hour. Well, the psychiatrist goes in to talk to the serial killer, Edward, and basically introduces himself. And the serial killer knows every single thing about him. And so it kind of throws the psychiatrist off. And there, from that point on, they start a dialogue. And as they're in the middle of the dialogue, the serial killer stops and says basically, oh, by the way, I'm a demon. Which basically the psychiatrist smiles at, because he's been told that this guy's going to try and convince you he's crazy so he doesn't have to get executed. So it goes and progresses from there. We go back and forth throughout the story. Is he, isn't he, is he, isn't he? And that's the basics of the story. I would say think C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters meet Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, I think so too. One thing I want to get out right away so we don't miss it is we've had a lot of folks. So we've been promoting it in our community, in the Apostolic VA community. It's the first place that I did a review for the movie, a positive review. And some very devout Catholics said they were afraid to see it and they're not going to see it because they're sensitive. And I want to argue against that. I really think it's worth enduring whatever you think you have to endure. I mean, this movie was not gory. Right. It is not, I don't categorize it as a horror film. In a sense, it's a psychological thriller in a way.
Well, for perspective for listeners, the Passion of the Christ is more gory.
Way more.
And there's no gore in this movie at all.
Yeah. And there's nothing gratuitous. You don't, you don't see murders,
right?
That sort of thing. So, Cary, I'm sure you've had this question put to you. Do you think that, are there any issues with people being scared about seeing the movie?
I'm glad you brought that up. This is not a demonic, satanic movie, which is everyone's first threat. Quite honestly, if I looked at the poster and I didn't make the movie, I wouldn't go to the movie. I would be scared off by the poster. There was a reason we did the poster. Originally, by the way, even though the church is embracing it, we wanted to bring in those young people that are people that are absolutely obsessed with the demonic and the occult, because we feel that they're being lost in waves. Literally, every one of these garbage, horrific movies that comes out is infesting people. And so what we knew is that the poster would not attract the church. It would set off good people. So I think it's a good reaction that people are having. But at the same time, it was a Trojan horse to bring in the people that really need to see the movie in that perspective. So like when you talk about gratuitous, there's no sex, there's no bad language. We don't drop an F-bomb in the whole movie. I mean, there's none of that. I am a devout with Chuck. We are devout Catholics. Chuck is my business partner and co-director, writer, and so on. And so I don't think that, I will tell you, if you look at the fruit of our tree, Unplanned, pro-life movie, Abby Johnson, God's Not Dead, Do You Believe, What If, and this movie, amongst other stuff, you have nothing to fear, nothing to worry. It's two guys in a room. Now, before you say to yourself, well, that would be boring.
It's not boring.
It's not boring.
Yeah. I think of any possible scenario that you could paint about two guys in a room, you will not be able to anticipate, other than the clues we're giving you now, what this thing is going to feel like or seem like.
So I'm so pleased to say that you did this on purpose, because that was kind of my suspicion looking at everything, because there's quite a few things in the movie that are presented one way, but if you're looking at it within the context of the entire movie, it seems as if there's a deeper meaning to it. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the if you're comfortable talking about it, of course, but the older priest.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
The older priest in the I've so I guess we should say spoiler if there's I'm sure other people have heard about it.
Yeah.
But I've heard some people be critical of that, but then I'm watching it within the context and I'm thinking, this seems like it was on purpose. This represents an aspect of what we're experiencing in the church today, and represents it in a really really good way. Yeah.
I would say that, yes, that was intentional. We knew exactly what we were doing. We did it for two reasons. The first reason is we had to address the point, why don't they bring in somebody like who knows what he's doing, which is what they would probably do in this situation. And so we wanted to get that out of the way from a story point. But that was the minor point. What we wanted to show was, this is a priest that has the power and authority of Jesus Christ. And he is a priest of the Catholic Church, right? So he walks in the room, and what happens is the demon literally jumps up from the table.
Yeah, that was
And
great.
starts quoting scripture, or literally in fear. And by the way, this is just an Easter egg. I don't know if you guys caught it or not. When Sean jumps off, Sean Patrick Flannery, who's playing Nefarious,
Brilliant.
from the table, if you look at it, if you see it again, look at his hair. There's two horns of hair.
Somebody in one of our crew was watching it, saw that.
Yeah.
They thought they saw something. Yeah.
Right. And so the horns of hair, because he's in his defense mode, right? The horns are out. It's the only time you actually see the demon that way, right? So he backs away, and the priest comes in, and suddenly he's saying, look, you have nothing to worry about. I've never been to an exorcism. You know, that it's really just things of our disordered mind. You have nothing to worry about. I'm never going to do an exorcism. You know, let's all get along. Let's be the liberal, kindler, gentler, social justice warrior. You know, I know you might have mental conditions, but I'm going to help you. That kind of thing. The minute he sees his authority, the demon comes right back to the table, and in mockery of the priest, sits down and crosses his legs and says, I should have had you in here sooner. The horns go eventually disappear because there's nothing to fear. He knows the guy is a poser. And the reason we did it was very simple. This is a problem in the church today.
Yeah.
Our problem is we see, and amongst Catholics, in my opinion, we cede our authority immediately to evil. So COVID, they want to shut the churches down. Okay. You want to get vaccinated? Oh, we need to have everybody vaccinated. Oh, everybody. We can't give masks because that would be dangerous. And so there's this insanity in the world right now where we wanted to say, look, there are great priests out there as far as I'm concerned. There are really a lot of great priests. But this progressiveness, this kindler, this kind of, we don't talk about evil, all these things, basically, that is what we want to show. And I think we did a good job with it. We even put the rainbow scarf on him, which I thought, the minute he walks in the room with that scarf, you know exactly what we're saying.
Oh, you killed it. You killed
the
it.
Che Guevara
Yes,
stole, I think is
that's
what
what
our
our
priest friend
said.
told us. Yeah,
And
we gotta go to
we
a
put
break.
him in a cardigan.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah. You know what? This guy's my new best friend.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the writer, producer, director of Nefarious, Cary Solomon, an amazing movie that every Catholic should see with some caveat. But I really think that y'all ought to see it and support it. When we get back from the break, we'll keep digging into what was behind the scenes in the movie. We'll be right back.
Hi friends, we want to personally invite you to check out all of our upcoming retreats here at Avila. Head over to spiritualdirection.com/events or click on the events tab on the top of spiritualdirection.com and sign up now for one of our powerful mini retreats, Setting the Captives Free or Into the Deep or Divine Intimacy in Marriage. Now with both live and online options, our mini retreats can be live streamed right into your living room or parish meeting room. Discover why these events sell out time and time again. That's spiritualdirection.com/events. Register today. There is a growing need for well-formed, solid spiritual directors in the church today. The Avila Institute, in collaboration with Heart of Christ Spiritual Direction Program, offers a certificate in spiritual direction for those who feel called to accompany others in their journey towards God. The program is grounded in Ignatian and Carmelite spirituality based on a Catholic worldview and draws on the wisdom of the saints with an emphasis on biblical principles in the new evangelization. This program offers both online and on-site classes. Discover more and apply today at avila-institute.org.
This is Dan and Jordan Burke. Welcome back to Divine Intimacy Radio. We're talking about one of the most important movies that has come out in my lifetime, and it's entitled Nefarious. We're talking with Cary Solomon, writer, producer, director of Nefarious. Why is it so important? I'll give you an example. I have a spiritual directee who asked me the other day if I had seen Nefarious, and this is a devout, very devout man who's has a beautiful apostle. I mean, this guy is no slouch, going from good to better. He's not a revert. He's been just dead serious about his faith forever. The movie rattled him to the core, and he said he realized things about the way he thought that he doesn't want to, he realized they were dangerous to him.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to watch this movie every year.
Yeah.
So it's not just, so of course it will help those non-Christians, out on the edges of the church, Catholics, Christians. It'll help them too, because they'll see junk they allow in their head coming out of the mouth of a demon. But it'll also help you if you're devout, because and this is, I mean, a realm that we live in. I've written 2 best-selling books, Spiritual Warfare and Discernment of Spirits, and then Devil in the Castle, Teresa of Avila, Spiritual Warfare and the Progress of the Soul. So I know, and I've also been in 24 full rite exorcisms and worked with multiple possessed people and worked with deliverance ministry. So the truths that they were able to illustrate through art in this movie in a rock your soul powerful way, they get past a lot of the barriers, the intellectual barriers, the psychological barriers, the emotional barriers, and really it will break things open for every single person. I think, like, we had a small group that saw it, that reviewed it to prepare for this show here.
Yeah.
Every one of them were deeply moved
including
by it,
the priest,
who was with us. Yeah.
No, I don't remember if you said it in the first half, but you had mentioned that having gone through multiple full rite exorcisms, you said that there are many things that the demon said in the movie that you had heard from demons.
Oh gosh. So listen, I told Cary before the show, he's the writer producer that's our guest today. I said you had to have had divine intervention and or an exorcist advisor that's very good, because I've heard the exact words the demon in the movie said, I've heard directly out of the mouth of a demon. Right. And I've heard it not just once, because their bag of tricks is a pretty limited, even though their demons are far superior in intellect to human beings and in power. They're not very creative. Our God is very creative. So yeah, I don't know if that's where you're going.
That is where I was going. But even speaking on that, one of the things that I noted watching this movie was that it's borderline catechesis on a topic that isn't often taught on.
Yeah, but not in any kind of, you don't feel like you're in a classroom.
No.
You don't feel like you're being preached to. Some
Right.
Christian movies just get a little too obvious about the message they're trying to deliver, and then you get distracted by that obviousness.
Right.
Nothing like that in this movie.
Yeah, and to drive that home, this was some of the best acting I've ever seen, just hands down.
The guy who played Nefarious, I mean, so Cary, to you, Jordan recognized him from Boondock Saints, I think was one of his movies.
Yeah.
How did you get what I would call an A-list? I don't know if he's an A-list guy, but he certainly is A-list talent.
Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah.
Amazing man, amazing, just not a diva, just real deal. Just everything you saw is exactly him. About 15 years ago, we were, maybe 2003, something like that. So almost 20 years ago, I did a little movie, and the bottom line is that Sean, and the budget was like $200,000, and we were just starting out. And Sean said, yeah, I'll do it, which is shocking because he's been in Boondock Saints. He was Powder. He did all this other stuff. And what happened was we got along so well that he basically said he would work with us anytime. But the funny thing was that the Lord put us together in that movie for a reason, because when I was done with that movie, I felt in my spirit that the Lord was saying to me, you're going to do a lot of work with him. He's going to become your guy. So when we sent him the project, and I said to him, look, you said you'd do a Fruit Loops commercial with us, because he was that excited. I got a Fruit Loops movie for you. So, and he laughed. He even said, I'm in. Whatever you want to do, I'm in. I had a great experience with you guys. So it was the hand of God thing, I mean, everything in this movie, we dealt with demonic manifestation. We dealt with angelic occurrences. It's just an unbelievable sequence of events, but he's a phenomenal actor. And if the world was a fair place, he would win the Academy Award. He more than deserves it. I don't think anyone is going to do the job that he does in this movie this year for the awards.
I couldn't agree more. It was I don't get sucked into movies in general. It just doesn't. I'm not that kind of guy. but I'm watching and I find myself praying for him during the movie.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is a movie. You know, like it was that impressive, that well done.
And I will say, I don't know if I want to reveal it on this show because I want to be careful. I don't want to say something that would affect anyone not seeing it. It changed one particular view, one particular doctrine that I have held that is a matter of prudential judgment in the church, and the church has supported, multiple perspectives on this. It changed my mind, and I'll give you a hint, and I'll let you decide if you want to talk about it. My heart was broken for the killer, because I've seen victims of demonic possession. I know what they do to people, and I was moved. I was just about brought to tears at his suffering, knowing. So I know why I know how people get possessed, and you did that brilliantly as well. You revealed the kind of
the explanation couldn't have been more perfect.
But of course done artistically.
Right.
But I found myself incredibly sympathetic to him and to people on death row in general.
The whole sequence with I don't know, to be honest. A lot of people have brought up the death penalty, pro, con. We didn't start out with the idea to make a statement on the death row thing. We did it as a story point. He had to die. But one of the things I can tell you, I do believe, I look at it two ways. If you go and execute somebody, they don't have a chance at redemption anymore. And the Lord
That's my point. Yep.
But on the other hand, the church does say, look, if there's somebody who's this dangerous and doing this kind of thing, you are allowed to execute them.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm back and forth on that. I think mercy is important. What I am against, however, is this absurdity of the way they kill these death row guys. So, for example, this is one of the most horrific ways.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. They have to hit these guys 2 and 3 and 4 times. I mean, there's no excuse for that. And now with the lethal injection, you can't tell me that we can't kill a person in 10 seconds rather than making going through hours of agonizing pain. It's demonic. Just hang them or shoot them, like we used to do. But everything has gotten complicated. You hang a person, they're dead. Bam. You shoot them, they're dead. That's why we had a firing squad. I mean, if we're going to go there, let's get it done. Then be merciful in the process. We should be honoring God in mercy, right? But I will agree with you. The reason the story point of the execution was in there was because we wanted to show how evil really works. To take a human soul, and after literally destroying this soul and making him do all these terrible things, it's not enough just to destroy their life, but now I'm going to make him suffer on his way out before he goes to hell. And so that was the point we were trying to make there. Now, obviously, abortion and euthanasia and all that was intentional as well. That was intentional, but
that scene, what led up to the scene regarding abortion, talking about Moloch, and then this is a big spoiler alert as well. The demon knows exactly what's happening. He knows that the abortion is going to happen. He counts down, and then he almost screams in an erotic, horrifying way,
right,
at the killing of the baby. And I was that if I could have been blown back in my seat, if that were possible, like getting hit by a shotgun. Wow, that scene was just insane.
I will say that, gosh, I mean, the spirit was all over us. And that final statement, when the baby is finally murdered, and by the way, you don't see this on the screen. He's talking about it so that no one should be scared of it. But although that final phrase, and all hell rejoices, it was just when we wrote it, I mean, I had to stop. And I had to think. There are many times in this movie when we had to stop and we had to think. And I will tell you that, wow, like when he's talking about ripping a baby out of the womb of the carpenter. I mean, my goodness, to make the carpenter suffer. I mean, it was crazy. But, the spirit was on this. By the way, as far as all the knowledge thereof that we put into the piece, we did our research. We did a lot of research on this, a lot of prayer. And, Father Carlos Martins, who has the Exorcist Files as a podcast, and he's like probably the number one. He's certainly up there in the top couple exorcists in the country. He saw the movie and he said, "This is the best movie on exorcism I've ever seen. This is exactly what happens." He says, "I will not promote the Pope's Exorcist, but I will promote this movie." Cardinal Burke gave us his personal endorsement and mentioned me and Truck by name, that we did a phenomenal job. So, I mean, the church is rallying to this. I have priests, by the way, if I can tell you this quick story, it'll take 10 seconds, but a friend of mine by the name of Carol, she's online for confession. A friend of hers comes out of the confessional and he walks over to her because she was in the movie. She was in the witness room and she ran all the extras. He comes over to her when he comes out of the confessional and he has a smile on his face. And he says, "You're not going to believe what the priest gave me for penance." And she's like, "No, what is it?" He said, "He told me to go see Nefarious."
With that, we've got to wrap up our time with Cary Solomon, writer, producer, director of Nefarious, a great movie. Totally, I think everyone should see it. I think kids, if they're not mature enough, 18 or older, I think it'll work. They're mature, they can go. If you want to hear part 2 of this interview, head out to spiritualdirection.com YouTube page, and I'll talk about my own involvement with a serial killer named Ted Bundy and the realism behind this movie. So thank you, Cary, and we wish you all the best with this project.
Until next time, may the God of peace make you perfect in holiness. May he preserve you whole and entire, spirit, soul, and body, irreproachable at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Learn more about the interior life. Visit spiritualdirection.com. Divine Intimacy Radio is a co-production of EWTN Radio and spiritualdirection.com and heard worldwide on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.